here we go. Practice problems for elimination. We're actually going to be solving these for the solution. Before I even start on this, I want to say that the way that I'm going to work these 4 problems out is not necessarily the only way that you can do it. So if you were to pause this video now and solve it, and I do it a different way, wait until the end to see the solution to see if you did it right or wrong, okay? Because just like in substitution, there's multiple ways that you can approach it, okay? But just for us to all be on the same page, I'm just gonna do it one way so I don't make a super long video. Okay, so our first one, this is a system of equation. Again, we're trying to see where these 2 lines will intersect on a graph, okay? So we have to find an X and a Y value, just like we would in substitution, okay? So immediately, I see that none of my coefficients match up. All right, are these the same? These are the same ones from the front page. Okay, so none of my coefficients match up. And so what I can do is I see that this is a 1 here, because again, if there's not a number in front of a variable, then it's understood to be 1. So what I could do is I could multiply both sides of this by 4. Okay, that's one way you could do it. I'm not going to work these out both ways, but another way is I see that I have a 5 and a 10. So I could multiply this one by 2, and then that would make this a 10, so then I would have 2 10s there, okay? So just to change it up from the first page, this is the way I'm going to work it out. All right, so now my new equation, or my new system, the first equation we didn't change, so I'm going to keep it the same. And then my next one is going to be 8x plus 10y equals 10. All right, so I notice that I have a positive 10 and a positive 10y. Okay, so because my coefficients match up here, they are set up for me to eliminate them. All right, so if I have a positive 10 and a positive 10 and we want to eliminate them, we want them to equal 0. So in order for them to equal 0, we would have to subtract the 2 equations from each other. So that would be a positive 10 minus a positive 10, which would be 0. All right, so then if we continue, I have a positive 1 minus 8, which would be a negative 7x. And then I have a 3 minus 10, which would equal negative 7. All right, so I'm trying to solve for this x value because I need my x and my y. So I'll divide this by negative 7, divide this by negative 7, those cancel, and x equals a positive 1. Okay, so a lot of us are going to want to stop there, but remember we still have to solve for y. So you can do that by choosing any of the equations from the problem. I'm going to use this one. And that's just because it doesn't have a coefficient, so that's one less step. Okay, so I have x plus 10y equals 3. I'm trying to solve for y. But I can't solve for y if I don't know x, but I do know x, it equals 1. Okay, so I'm going to substitute that in. So I have 1 plus 10y equals 3, and I'm just going to solve this equation now. So minus 1, those cancel. I have 10y equals 3 minus 1, which is 2, divided by 10, divided by 10. Y equals, a lot of you are going to want to say 5, but that would be if it was 10 divided by 2, but this is 2 divided by 10, so it's actually 1/5. All right, so the solution is 1 and then 1/5 for our y. Good. All right, first one done. And again, you can, just like in substitution, you can pull up Desmos calculator, type in these two equations at the beginning. You don't even have to do the multiplication step, and you can check and see if it intersects at this point right here. Okay. Next, this one gives it to us in word form first and wants us to write out the equations. All right, so we have the difference of 3 times the number x, and y is equal to -4. Okay, so we have 2 times 3x plus y equals -4. And then we have why do they make this so complicated? I promise I looked at this, but I picked this question like a long time ago, and now I'm just like, why? Why do they have to make it like this? You know what? We're just going to start it like they've been teaching us this whole time. All right, so we have 3x minus y, that's a y, equals -4. And then we have 2x plus 2y equals 72. All right, so none of my coefficients match up. Okay, so I'm going to have to multiply one of the equations in order to match them up. Now, I always like to find an equation that has a 1 because then I can just multiply it by whatever the coefficient is that it would match with. So since that y is a 1 and I need it to be a 2, I'm going to multiply this equation by 2. Okay, and so that's going to now equal 6x minus 2y equals -8. And this is going to be 2x plus 2y equals 72. Okay, so this is my new system. And it's equivalent, so we're not actually going to change what the solution is to this equation. All right, and now I see that I have a -2 and a +2y. Okay, so this time my signs are different. Okay, so if I want those to be eliminated, if I have a +2 and a -2 and a +2, I'm going to have to add the equations together in order for those to cancel. So that's going to cause those to cancel out. So I have a +6x plus a 2x, so that's going to be 8x, equals a -8 plus 72, which is going to be 64. Right, then I'm going to solve for x, so I'm going to divide both sides by 8. Those cancel, and I have x equals 8. All right, but again, we're trying to see where they intersect on the graph, so I have to have an x and a y. So again, you can just go and choose either one of the equations from the beginning. I'm going to use this one right here that I highlighted. I'm going to use 3x minus y equals -4. We know that x equals 8. So I'm just going to substitute that in. So I have 3 times 8 minus y equals -4. That's 24 minus y equals -4. Add 24 to both sides. I have -y equals 20. So that's a -1y, so I have to divide both sides by -1, and y equals -20. Where did I mess up? 8 times 3. I messed up somewhere. Look at this. All right, yeah, okay. Well, I see my mistake. You are probably all like, obviously this is the issue. All right, so that's a +24, so I should have subtracted right here. So that should be -24, so that should be 28, which will give me a -28, which will give me a +28 at the end. Sorry guys, it's late. I'm struggling here. All right, so we've got 8 and 28 is where they intersect. Okay, moving on. Next one. So now I'm seeing this is the ones where we're going to have to multiply both of the equations in order to get a matching coefficient. Okay, so got here. All right, so I have to keep my x's together and my y's together. Okay, so what is a number that 3 and 2 can both go into? So I know that I can multiply this one by 2, and I can multiply this one by 3, and that would allow my x's to match up, and then I could eliminate them. All right, if that's not what you saw when you first looked at it, you can also see that we have a 2 and a 5. Okay, so I could multiply this one by 5, and I could multiply this one by 2, and that would make these both 10. Okay, either way is okay to do. All right, just choose one way and stick with it. I'm going to do this one where I multiply it by 2 and 3. All right. Again, make sure you multiply it on both sides of the equal sign and you distribute it through to everything in parentheses. All right, so now that's going to equal, we have 6x minus, 4y equals negative 14. And then we've got 6x minus 15y equals 30. Okay? Whoops. Sorry, I got a mess over here. All right. Now, I see that my 6's are the same, and so we can eliminate those. So they're both positive, and so in order to eliminate them, we would need to subtract both of my equations from each other, because a positive 6x minus a positive 6x is 0, so we eliminate them. Then I've got a negative 4 minus a negative 15. Now that is a lot of minus subtracting going on, not minusing. Okay, this is what we're doing here. We have the negative 4 minus the negative 15. Okay, so if you need to go to your calculator, do it. Okay, if you struggle with your negative, so a negative 4 minus a negative 15, it's 11. Okay, so that's going to be 11y equals a negative 14 minus 30. That's going to give me negative 44. All right, divided by 11, divided by 11, y equals negative 4. Okay, we are almost finished. We still have to solve for x. So you can go back, choose either equation. I'm just going to choose the first one because it doesn't matter. All right, if you wanted to choose the second one, go for it. All right. If you wanted to use one of our new equivalent equations, you could do that too. So I have 3x minus 2y equals negative 7. All right, and I know that y equals negative 4, so I'm going to substitute that in there. So I have 3x minus 2 times negative 4 equals negative 7. So I have 3x. A negative 2 times a negative 4 is a positive 8, and a negative 7. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. Pay attention to my signs this time. And those will eliminate. So I have 3x equals a negative 7 minus 8 is going to be a negative 15. Divided by 3, divided by 3, x equals negative 5. All right, and if you want to go back into Desmos, you could type in those original equations, and they will intersect at this point. Okay, last one. And then you're done for the week 2. Hope your classes are going good so far. I hope these videos are helpful. All right, it says Nathan sells, let's get our highlighter right. Nathan sells 5 cupcakes and 6 lollipops for $10.75. Olivia sells 3 cupcakes and 4 lollipops for $6.75. How much do they cost? All right, well, first we need to define our variables here. Let's say that cupcakes is our X value and lollipops is our Y value, okay? So let's say X equals cupcakes. We always have to define this if it doesn't tell us. Y equals lollipops. All right, and we're gonna have to create our equations, okay? So I went ahead and took the, I went ahead and highlighted them in the colors of the equations that need to stay together. We have Nathan's cupcakes and lollipops, and we have Olivia's cupcakes and lollipops. So if Nathan has 5 cupcakes plus 6 lollipops, and that all equals $10.75. Okay. Then we have Olivia here that's in blue. I'll change the color. No, I'm not. All right. So then I have 3 cupcakes, and I have plus 4 lollipops. That equals $6.75. Okay. So now we just solve it. Now, first thing I notice is that none of my coefficients match up. All right, so I just have to decide, I have to take a second and decide which variables I want to eliminate. Well, I see that 3 and 5, we can multiply these, and there's a multiple where we could eliminate them. So I'm just going to do that. If you want to do Y, go for it. All right, so I'm going to multiply this equation by 3. I'm going to multiply this equation by 5. Okay, because when I do that, I'm going to have 15x plus 18y, so I have to distribute that 3 to everything, equals, oops, can't do decimals in my head. Use my phone calculator real quick. Just kidding, I have it written down on my paper. 32.25. Next, 5 times 3 is 15x plus 20y equals $33.75. All right, so that worked out, and now I have these coefficients that match. Okay, so because they match, they're set up perfectly to be eliminated. All right, so since I have a positive 15x and a positive 15x, we want it to eliminate and equal 0. So a positive 15 minus a positive 15 would cause them to eliminate. Okay, so now we have to subtract the rest of this off to simplify it. I have a positive 18 minus a positive 20. All right, so that's going to give me a negative 2y. And then I have a negative 32.25. $32.25 minus $33.75. All right, that's going to give me negative 150. Okay, so then I'm solving for y. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. And I get y equals 75 cents. All right, so we said y was our lollipops. So it's 75 cents per lollipop. Okay, so now I found the price of lollipops. Now we gotta find the price of the cupcakes. So I'm just gonna take that y and I'm gonna plug it back into one of these equations. So I'm gonna choose the second one, mainly because it's smaller numbers. So I have 3x plus 4y equals 6.75. I know that y equals 0.75. That's 3x plus 4 times 0.75. I'm going to do this math in my head. $3. I think it is. All right. Now I solve for x. So I'm going to subtract both sides by 3. That's going to be 3x equals 375. Divided by 3. X equals 125. Let me double check. I did too much of that math in my head. Can't be trusted. 3.75 divided by 3. Yay. All right, so it's 1.25. All right, so that is the cost per lollipop. I don't know if wow, can't speak. I don't know if any of y'all have noticed. I say this now. Okay, well, I was going to say how good I've gotten at using this pen as I've marked through this 18 times incorrectly. All right, that is elimination practice problems. So if you have any questions, if that's still confusing to you, I know not many of y'all have asked to do like a live Zoom, but if that is something that y'all are interested in doing, then just let me know and I can get one scheduled if you need some like questions answered like while you're doing it. I'd be happy to do that, but I know that y'all have a lot of other Zooms where like you have to meet in class, so I don't want to make that mandatory just to add something else to your plate if you don't need it. Okay, so just let me know. You know, feel free to email me if you have any questions or if you just have a cool story from quarantine. I miss you guys. Hope you are doing good. All right, I'll see you next week.